Freedom is defined as a state of being unrestricted and being able to move easily. I would interpret the state of being unrestricted to be tied down to choices. Every individual is faced with a series of choices they have to make. When you look back at your life and all of the choices you have made up to the present, you can identify a series of choices that you have made. Choices are what define us as individuals, as they shape our personality and our outlook on life. T.F. Hodge states that freedom is realizing you have a choice. The freedom bestowed onto us to make choices is what makes us as individuals special, as everyone has their own unique path of choices that have made them who they are. I believe transparent freedom can be interpreted to an individual and the choices they make. People are habitual creatures, and so, if an external viewer knows this individual well, they can interpret the choices they make, thus making their freedom transparent. Transparent freedom can also be interpreted to an introspective aspect of life, as due to our habitual tendencies. An individual knows himself better than anyone, and so sticks to choices they believe are correct or they enjoy, as they can see into themselves and know that this is the right thing for them, thus making their freedom transparent to themselves. I would like to argue that we are in control of the choices we make, but upon researching the psychology of choices, are we truly in control of our choices?
In 1943, US psychologist Abraham Maslow proposed a hierarchy of needs, a set of natural needs which all individuals aspire to fulfill. This hierarchy comprises of 5 rudimental needs that we fulfill through the choices we make. The first would be our physiological needs, such as need to eat, sleep, and breathe. These are our priorities and our first choices we will make. Once these are fulfilled, we move on to our safety needs. These needs can comprise of actions that will make us feel secure, such as seeking shelter and warmth. Once this has been achieved, our focus falls to choices surrounding love and belonging. This involves being close to family or falling into a social clique. Once this has been achieved, we look for choices to boost our esteem, such as buying expensive and lavish items to impress our peers. We also seek out activities that give us drive and motivation to succeed and better ourselves. The final stage of this hierarchy is only achievable once the previous needs have been satisfied, and this is self-actualization. This final need involves making choices that will help you achieve your full potential, such as being creative or seeking to better yourself. Maslow's theory suggests that the concept of freedom within choice isn't true freedom, as our choices prove to be formulaic, as we subconsciously do these without thinking about it. We could not disregard our physiological needs to focus more on our esteem or self-actualization choices, as our physiological choices are forced, and thus the freedom of choice is not true freedom. Transparent freedom, however, can be tied into the last 3 needs of the hierarchy, as these choices are more conscious, and so are more predictable by others and by yourself. Maslow's theory presents the idea of our choices being already chosen for us, and that we aren't consciously making them, as our decisions, whilst making choices, appears formulaic. The idea that our choices are formulaic can also be linked to a psychological study known as the status quo bias. The status quo bias is the idea that we will always choose options that provide a sense of familiarity or security, instead of going for a more dangerous option. This idea was implemented into a study by Kempf and Ruenzi in 2006. This study showed that when offering to either keep their financial plan or swap to a new one, the subjects were more likely to stick with their current plan, even if the alternative offered a better reward. The choice of safety instead of risk stood out in this test, as this concept would state that we'd always choose this option when making choices. I would agree with the status quo bias, as although I do attempt to challenge myself, I do prefer familiarity and security when making my choices. The status quo bias links in with the concept of transparent freedom, as although we are free to make whatever choices we want, it is easy to predict that an individual will go for the safe option, thus making their choices transparent, making their freedom transparent also. These two concepts would argue against the concept of freedom in our choices, stating that our choices are not made from true freedom. These ideas enforce the notion of transparent freedom, as although your choices are not completely in control, the choices you make are apparent to yourself and others, and thus makes you as an individual transparent. This would lead me to define transparent freedom as freedom of choice, but for the individual's choice to be transparent.